What's up? It's Ish and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I know you guys already heard me talk about real estate and how I got started with real estate and how much I loved it and why I got excited about real estate. I really got excited because it was an amazing market that I wanted to get into. It was easy, so I thought, right? And it was the type of easy that I was looking for. So if you really want to know the truth, there's nothing really easy about anything that you want to pursue that's great, but you get to choose what type of difficulty you want to go through. And to me, real estate was the kind of difficulty that didn't make me want to roll my eyes or run away from the situation. So I decided to get into real estate because it was one of the most least volatile markets. It was something I'm passionate about. And for me, I was willing to deal with the challenges that came with real estate and investing in real estate. So I want to give you some more insight into what my challenges were. I talked about a lot about what I liked, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what some of the challenges were when it came to my first property and investing in my first property and all of the experiences that I had with tenants and all of that. So I invested in real estate my first real estate property about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a really exciting process, something that I will never regret and that I would do 1,000 times more and will do 1,000 times more. But I did experience a lot of challenges. Now, I first want to lead this off by saying I am not a real estate expert yet. I am still learning a lot about real estate, so I am not a licensed agent and I am not giving you advice. I'm just telling you about my experience and my journey and process in investing in real estate. So my first tenant was a Section 8 tenant, and one of the great things about having a Section 8 tenant is that your rent is essentially recession proof because the local housing authority is paying your tenant's rent, which is really, really great. So when the pandemic came, a lot of people were able to pause their rent or forego paying their rent for some time because of the COVID situation, where I didn't have that problem. My tenant's rent was still getting paid to me by the local housing authority, and that is because my tenant was on a housing program, so I didn't have to worry about all of those issues. Now, that's the great thing about having a Section 8 tenant. And I recommend, if you're just getting started in real estate investing, that you do go with a Section 8 tenant because the rent is recession proof, like I said. And it's just a great way to make really easy income. You don't have to worry about, does your tenant have a job? Can they pay for this? Can they afford to pay their monthly rent? They have a housing voucher. You know how much that is. If you agree to that amount, then you can have that tenant as a Section 8 tenant. If your tenant is a Section 8 tenant and your rent is more and you don't want to change the prices of your rent, you just have to find out if your tenant is able to and is permitted to pay over a certain amount to pay the difference, which it can happen in some cases. Now, one lesson that I did learn is that having a tenant is so much more than your tenant being able to pay their rent. I think a lot of times we think about tenant problems and we think about them not paying their rent, but that's not always the issue with having a rental tenant. There are so many other things that you have to be mindful of, and I wish I did my due diligence with my first tenant so that I would know these things. So I'm telling you, so hopefully you can make better choices than I did. So I didn't do proper screening of my tenant. I didn't put my tenant through, standard screening processes because I figured, hey, they're on Section 8, I'm just a homeowner. This is just a single family home. This is just supplemental income. I wasn't taking real estate investing as seriously as I should have at the time. And so I learned a valuable lesson. I did not do proper screening on my tenant, which you should do for every tenant, whether they're on Section 8 or not. You should fairly screen your tenant across the board. That's just my recommendation, and that's something that I should have done. I didn't do this. I accepted their voucher, their housing paperwork. They had to complete a lot of different paperwork. There was a lot of things I had to sign. I completed that paperwork thinking, this will be easy, this will be fine. And for the most part, it was in the beginning, right? The first year that I had this tenant, I didn't have any major issues, right? There was a little bit of a plumbing issue that I had to resolve, but nothing that I thought of, nothing that I thought would be a big deal. Over time, I quickly learned that my tenant did not care for the property to the standard that I would have wanted the tenant to care for the property, which can be very, very costly. So you want to make sure that you have the funds to not only purchase your real estate investment property, house your tenant, but also take care of the property and maintain it even in the event that your tenant does not. And I didn't do proper credit screening, I didn't do background checks, I didn't find out if this tenant had prior evictions, I didn't find out if this tenant had, other issues that would be red flags to have this tenant in my property. So with that being said, some housing tenants do tend to have prior evictions, which is fine, and it's at your discretion with whether or not you would like to permit this tenant, depending on your local and state laws, to house your tenant in your property. The biggest issue is I didn't realize that my tenant had all of these other background issues and other background history issues that directly impacted the treatment of the property and overall the whole quality of the property, and impacted my neighbors, my surrounding neighbors. So this was a huge issue. It was a big thing that I learned, a big lesson that I learned, is that you must properly screen your tenants. Regardless of how you're getting your rental income coming in and how it's getting paid, you still want to make sure that you are properly screening and fairly and legally screening your tenants, so that you are getting tenants that are not only paying every month, but are also tenants that have a good rental background history. That is your right as an owner to ensure that your tenant follows those standards according to your local and state government law. Now, the second thing that I learned was all about finances. And this kind of trickles into another topic, so I won't talk about it too much, but it does impact how I should have handled my real estate properties and the income that was coming in from these properties. So one thing that I wish I had done differently is directly related to taxes. I really, really wish that I had reported my taxes quarterly rather than at the end of the year. I had made so much extra income from my real estate properties, from rental income, and other businesses, that I had grossed almost more than $60,000 total from all of my other streams of income outside of my full-time job, and I wasn't reporting these taxes quarterly. I waited until the end of the year, when it was tax season, when it was time to file my taxes, and I got slapped with a big ass tax bill. So that is something that I have learned, a valuable lesson actually just this year, because my income and my resources have expanded so much over the past few years that I didn't realize the impact it would have on me with taxes. So I learned a really, really big lesson when it comes to, just reporting your taxes quarterly, making quarterly payments, so that you don't have this big fat tax bill at the end of the year that is gonna really kind of mess you up, right? So that is something that I wish I had learned, I wish I had done differently, wish I had done better, but I'll definitely know for next year, I'll definitely know for next time, and I wanna share this information with you. So if you didn't know this and you needed this information, you'd know next time, pay your taxes quarterly if you make a certain amount of money, so that you don't have a big tax bill. Now, one thing we're gonna talk more about in another video, again, I'm not a real estate expert and I'm not a tax expert, is the benefits of moving your property to a private trust. There are some tax benefits, and there also are some benefits for if you ever were to pass on, whenever you pass on, that when you pass your property down to your loved ones or your beneficiary, that having that property in a trust will actually work wonders when it comes to distributing that wealth. If you just have your things in a will, it could take sometimes years for your beneficiaries to actually receive those things. But if you have it in a trust, your beneficiaries don't have to wait years and years and years. There's a trustee, there's an executor, and there's people in place that can help make sure that all of your assets and all of your wealth gets transferred over quickly without your loved ones waiting so long. That happens to so many people. So that's another video, but it definitely is something that directly related to property investing and real estate investing as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was definitely something that I've been really excited to get out and share more about and just talk to everyone about. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. and talk to me about your real estate investment choices. Talk to me about some of the things that you think you're gonna do, some of the money moves you think you're gonna make this year. And you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment, and share with a friend.